So I thought I would read a little bit from Invisible Supply by Joel Goldsmith, which I've mentioned many times on this channel, over the last half year or so. This has been really probably, I would say, my favorite book I've discovered or rediscovered, because I read it years ago. I got into Goldsmith originally back in like 2016, right around the time I got into Kuwait, actually. But I came back to it like a year ago or so, and really at this point in learning and applying and trying to better understand and explain these various manifesting, law of attraction, law of assumption, whatever you want to call them, bagalum, badoom boom ideas. This book, Invisible Supply, as I've said before on this channel, I just think it's terrific. It's for people who want, who kind of have that religious bent. If like you like LOA with like a religious sounding bent, like Neville and Joseph Murphy, but particularly Neville, I'd be curious. I still haven't heard that much feedback from people. I mean, like, if you like Neville, I really suggest checking out Joe Goldsmith. In many ways, Goldsmith is just as far out of a teacher, and he makes some claims that in some ways are even more provocative, one could say, than what Neville says. And at the same time, I'm very aware of why he's not as popular as Neville. I'll put a link above to a podcast episode, and I'll put a link in the description. One of the podcast episodes, I made a couple about Goldsmith and his teachings. And if you get into Goldsmith, you see quickly why he's not nearly as popular as Neville. Neville, in short, I think a lot of his stuff, you can go at it from a very like individual position where it's like, it's almost like you're mentally in your mind, and it's like it can seem almost ego driven. Like, I'm going to manifest this, I'm going to manifest that, I'm going to manifest this other thing. I'm not saying that's how Neville intended his teachings to be whatsoever. I think he did not generally mean it like that. He meant them to be practical, but kind of like spiritually based. Goldsmith doesn't allow for that kind of nonsense, in my opinion, at all. So if you like Neville, if you've been at this stuff for a while and you don't know that much Joel Goldsmith, you might like him. You might not. When I first read Goldsmith in 2016, I was turned off. There was just too much religious language, too much bullshit in what he was saying for me to deal with it. But, you get older, you mature. You look at different angles, you look at your own life, you look at what works for you. And one thing that works for me when it comes to these ideas and principles is, like turning away other things and turning to God when everything else seems to not be working well. Emmett Fox called it the golden key. H.M. Lee Cady called it trustful passivity. Joseph Murphy's got that great phrase, the absolute method, describing all this the same thing. And that is really what this book, Invisible Supply by Joel Goldsmith, is getting at. And so you could say, I don't like to use such a descriptor, but it's relevant here. I mean, this is mature manifesting advice, if you want to call it that. I'm pretty sure Goldsmith would just say this is spiritual advice. For me, this is more, actually, in a way, even though it's very spiritual sounding, and spiritual, obviously, right, in some way, but this is still like, this pertains to like manifesting and changing your life. But Goldsmith comes at it from this very mature, one could say spiritual background. And it ties into like what we were talking about the other day, about like, he's talking about supply here. When it comes to supply, we usually think, money, manifest more money, right? But obviously supply means all the qualities that you want in life, good health, good relationships, a romantic relationship if you want specifically a romantic relationship. And so this ties into like the SP discussion we had the other day. So often people in the SP community are trying to get love, emphasize on get love, attract and get love. And the advice is really doled out in that very, like, again, ego-driven, like, misinterpretation of Neville's advice way. It just seems backwards most of the time. This, what I'm about to read from Joel Goldsmith in Invisible Supply, seems forwards. It seems correct. Goldsmith writes early on in this book, the first 20, 25 pages of this book, you're just like, I mean, like, it's crazy. Like, the whole thing could be highlighted. It's unbelievable. Great book. He writes, "We are not looking for supply to come to us. We are proving that we have supply, even if it is expressed in only pennies or pence." This is like, again, there's something about this that's very deep, profound, and almost summates most of these law of attraction, law of assumption, manifesting ideas in a sentence or two. We can replace the word supply with love, for instance, here very easily. We are not looking for love to come to us. We are proving that we have love, even if it is expressed in only pennies or pence. You could say even if it's expressed in just small gestures of love within ourselves, right? Instead of pennies or pence, just small loving gestures. Small loving gestures could be just you're checking out at the supermarket and you smile at someone and they smile back at you. That's a small measure of love. It doesn't have to be this, romantic whirlwind relationship. That love is always there, is what Goldsmith is saying, right? Likewise, instead of supply or love, we could say peace. Like, we are not looking for peace to come to us. We are proving that we have peace, even if it is expressed in only small things, Perhaps you're outside, you notice how beautiful it is in nature, and you get that sense of peace, the sense of peace that you already have, that you already are. Little things. Goldsmith then goes on to quote something from Mark in the Bible. So again, he says, "We are not looking for supply to come to us. We are proving that we have supply, even if it is expressed in only pennies or pence." Then he gives this example from the Bible. "Jesus beheld how the people cast money into the treasury, and many that were rich cast in much. And there came a certain poor widow, and she threw in 2 mites, which make a farthing. And he saith unto them, This poor widow hath cast more in than all they which have cast into the treasury. For all they did cast in of their abundance, but she of her want did cast in all that she had, even all her living." That's a serious application of these principles. Goldsmith goes on to write, "Some people give away great fortunes, yet are no more blessed than the widow who gave the mite. What matters is not the number of pounds or dollars you give. It is the amount you give in proportion to your immediate means. In dollars and cents or in pounds and pence, it is impossible to measure how much we should give. The only measuring stick is how much love we are expressing, how much cooperation, how much recognition, how much praying, how much forgiving, how much we give in secrecy without drawing the attention of others to our benevolence." Now, that has a lot to do with financial supply, but it also has a lot to do with love, being in relationships, health. The way to improve these things is to give of yourself what you want and to recognize that you already have what you want in some way. The widow, in this story from the Bible, from the New Testament, gave all that she had. A lot of people say they want to be in a relationship, but they're unwilling to give the love, recognize the love they already have to themselves or to the other. And the same can be said about, many financial situations or health situations, things of that nature. So this is, again, if you want to use the word mature, this is like a mature approach to manifesting. And one could say a spiritual approach to manifesting. It's not for everybody who's into Neville or Joseph Murphy and these various techniques to get something. But if you want to get more real about it, in my opinion, or if you've been at this stuff for a while and recognize what so many of these various New Thought teachers are saying about turning to God, recognizing God, recognizing supply, love, peace, health within, not from without, recognizing it within, that we have it. We are not looking for supply to come to us. We are proving that we have supply. We are not looking for something to come to us. We are proving that we have it already. And even if it's expressed in just a small way, that is proof that we have it. The feeling inside of you, that desire, is proof that you have it already. So yeah, I know this is pretty mystical and far out sounding, but I thought it was worth sharing. Invisible Supply. I highly recommend the book. I'll put a link below to the book. We are not looking for supply to come to us. We are proving that we have supply, even if it is expressed in only pennies or pence.